Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Happy New Year. The new year bringing new pressure from the Trump administration on Iran, calling for the world to get behind the protests in that country that threaten to upset the regime. Iran's supreme leader blames, quote, enemies of the country for the deadly uprising. The demonstrations that have lasted nearly a week are the biggest in the country since a disputed election in 2009 and provided an opening for President Trump to hit the previous administration for what he called a lack of action. Correspondent Kevin Corke is at the White House tonight with the latest on this story from a chilly North Lawn. Good evening, Kevin.
Chilly indeed. Good evening, Brett. The president threatening new sanctions on the regime in Tehran if they continue the crackdown on the uprising. That crackdown, by the way, has already cost more than 20 lives and more than several hundred people have already been arrested. Now, that threat, however, happens as his administration is speaking with a common voice in support of the Iranian people.
It takes great bravery for the Iranian people to use the power of their voice against their government.
From the UN mission to the State Department.
We ought to support them.
To the White House.
The United States supports the Iranian people.
A unified front in support of the Iranian people in the throes of an uprising threatening to topple the rogue regime in Tehran.
Years of mismanagement, corruption, and foreign adventurism have eroded the Iranian people's trust in their leaders. The Iranian regime spends its people's wealth on spreading militancy and terror abroad rather than ensuring prosperity at home.
The White House's call to defend the Iranian people's right to self-determination is taking shape on air and online, with President Trump himself firing a cannonade of tweets that noted the uprising, his support of the Iranian people, and he accused the Obama administration of stabilizing the Tehran regime with $1.7 billion in cash in a settlement of a decades-old dispute back in 2016. All of the money that President Obama foolishly gave them went into terrorism and into their pockets. The people have little food, big inflation, and no human rights. Vice President Mike Pence added, the United States of America will not repeat the shameful mistake of our past. That, a reference to a similar Iranian revolt back in 2009, sparked by the country's disputed presidential election and President Obama's wait-and-see attitude.
My hope is that the regime responds not with violence, but with a recognition that the universal principles of peaceful expression and democracy are ones that should be affirmed. Am I optimistic that that will happen? You know, I take a wait-and-see approach.
An approach seen by the current administration as grievously ineffective.
The people of Iran are crying out for freedom. All freedom-loving people must stand with their cause. The international community made the mistake of failing to do that in 2009. We must not make that mistake again.
Ambassador Haley very strong there today, Brett. She said the U.S. would seek an emergency session at the UN to express support of the people there in Iran. Obviously, that is a position supported by the Trump White House, Brett.
More on this with the panel. Kevin, thank you.